This is the Everyday Hustle Show, where our number one priority is self-development.
Each week, we will dive into insightful topics that encourage you to push your thinking beyond average.
Smash that subscribe button and tune in every Sunday at 6 p.m. All right, we're hot.
Welcome to another edition of the Everyday Hustle Show. My name is Christian. We got Andrew and Jesse is back with us. Jesse, how you doing tonight?
I am a pillar of hope. I am a shining star in a dark night.
All right. Okay.
I feel like Jesse's been gone for a while.
Yeah, it's been like maybe 2 episodes.
Where you been, bud?
I've been all over the place. I was in Tampa last weekend. Had a nice little trip. Where else have I been?
Just freaking
Think Disney,
living.
right?
No Disney. Just Tampa.
That was a while ago.
That was like a year ago.
Last week, but you missed the two episodes,
yeah, you
right?
missed 2 episodes. Yeah,
Did
I think there was one where you were like at a dinner.
Well,
or
I went
something.
to Daytona like a month ago.
Yes, Daytona.
And then Tampa.
Well, either way, dude, we're happy to have you back, man. The people
happy,
miss
brother.
you, you know?
They do.
The people have been
Typically, in
asking about you.
my whole life, people have always missed me.
I think it's a lie, but
Coming to you pre-recorded from Lake Worth, Florida.
yes, sir.
Not live, pre-recorded.
Pre-recorded.
We have a special guest tonight. We got Tim Stoddart on the line here. Tim, how you feeling tonight?
I'm doing great, fellas. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Tim is another podcaster, first off. So we have a lot of questions that we want to ask Tim, but, you know, he's an entrepreneur, a writer, and an addiction recovery advocate. He's the CEO and founder of Stoddart Internet Marketing, which is an online marketing agency that works with clients and helps them rank their websites in search engines and helps them convert traffic into business. He also has a personal blog where he writes about his experience as an entrepreneur and documents his journey. Tim's newest project is called The Cheese, which is a daily newsletter for the latest esports news. You can find more about him at timstodds.com. That's TIMSTODZ, like in zoo.com.
Wow.
And yeah, Tim, I asked you for that a little bit earlier, and you said it's always weird talking about yourself, but was that good? And I said, man, that just got me fired up.
It's kind of funny to hear. I went back and forth thinking about, like, am I trying to brag here? Am I saying like where I'm from or just what I do? So I'm glad that I got it right. I was honestly kind of like second guessing it the whole time.
Yeah, and you know, every time I ask someone to do that, they're always it's always weird to talk about yourself, you know. But I feel like, and I actually work with someone else on another podcast, and they always have their guests do that, and I kind of not stole it from her, but like I integrated it into our show because I wanted people to, you know, get used to saying good things about themselves and just be positive, and you know what you see as little tasks or little things you've accomplished in your life could be huge milestones for other people. And I feel like even in my life, It's always good to, like, you know, say the things that I've done and accomplishments that I've been able to get done in my life. But so we met through a mutual friend, Danny Donovan and D Squared Media, who actually sponsors our podcast, who's been helping us for a long time. And his company specializes in internet marketing, branding, you know, web design. They do a slew of different things. You can check them out at dsquaredmedia.net. And, you know, our website, the everydayhustleshow.com, was completely redone by them a few months back. So check them out, and you could reach them at their website or, you know, direct message us for an email address. Anyone who reaches out to them through the show is receiving 10% off of their invoice if they have work they need to get done or, you know, whatever it is. We're always trying to support small businesses and entrepreneurs. That's the way we grow together. But, Tim, how did you meet Danny?
Danny was introduced to me. I mean, first off, let me just kind of say, I didn't know that they sponsored your show, but I can personally attest to the work that Danny's done as well for a while. When we first started Stoddart, we didn't really have web design in our repertoire of services. So anytime I got in a web design job, Danny was always the first person that I went to. So he's built probably half of the websites that I've been involved with. So yeah, like this isn't like a plug. I didn't know that D Squared sponsored the show, but I'm totally familiar with their work, and they're so good at what they do. I love those guys. So with that, I can't tell you exactly where I met Danny. I don't know the moment I met Danny. It's not one of those like introductions that it is super clear in my mind, but man, he and I have really kind of shared our journeys together. We both kind of went out on our own at the same time. Before that, it was a little different because he had jobs, like, and he's a little bit more formally trained as a web designer. I've kind of always been an entrepreneur, even when I was a kid. I'm just a terrible employee. Like, I don't say that to sound cool or anything. I've like never been good at jobs. And so I just kind of always knew early on that I was going to find my own way. And working with Danny, like we always just had the ability to be able to message each other and just kind of talk about, like, I don't know, some of the things we were working on and maybe some of the insecurities that we were having, or like, man, I'm really struggling with this. Like, what do you think I should do? And it's been great since I moved to Nashville. I really haven't spoken to him nearly as much, but man, I got nothing but love for that guy. For real. He's just a good human. By the way, can I curse on this show?
Fuck yeah, dude.
Okay, good.
Jesse approves.
Because I was sitting here like, man, okay, good. I'm not just going to scream it out, but like I say fuck every once in a while. So
Yeah, we're
it's like,
passionate. We're passionate, you know. If the passion comes to you, just let it flow, my brother. There were so many times that I wanted to stop you there and ask you questions, and I kind of like noted down everything that I want to ask you. The first thing I'm going to ask you is, we've already talked about entrepreneur, and that word has I feel like is thrown around a lot. And you talked, yeah, and you talked about going out on your own, and everyone knows, if they have followed our journey, they know that Danny is, you know, he owns and operates his own company, and he's been in business for over 7 years. So he's doing something right as an individual. And obviously you are, because I've followed your journey for the past year or so, but I've looked back by listening to your podcast, your history and all that. So why, like, what is your definition of an entrepreneur, and why do you call yourself one?
Man, that is like the perfect question for you to ask, because it's really funny. I get in my head sometimes about referencing myself as an entrepreneur, and it's not that I don't think I am one. It's almost like a weird, maybe it's my ego, where I feel like I need to sort of differentiate myself from people that. So here's basically what I'm getting at. I'm a business owner, and I like employ people, you know, okay. And my businesses actually make money, and they have expenses, and there's operations behind it. But just because you have like an Instagram account and you post a lot of pictures and you use like hashtag hustle 24/7 and shit like that, doesn't actually mean that like you're building a business, you know? And these days, if you have an Instagram account and you post a bunch of pictures with like cars and watches and shit like that, like then somehow you're able to sort of reference yourself as an entrepreneur. And yeah, man, like I've really, really struggled with that a lot, because I don't want to be aligned or not aligned. I'm happy to be aligned with anybody, but I don't want to be seen or like portray myself as somebody that's sort of just out for attention, you know, because that word entrepreneur these days is just kind of like, hey, look at me. I want all your attention. I want all these followers, and like followers doesn't necessarily equal a business. So to me, I've called myself a business owner a lot. And it really wasn't only until the last year where I just kind of started being a little bit more comfortable with like who I am and putting my work out there, and just I don't know, maybe just not caring as much, because when you get older, you just don't care as much about stupid shit like that. But I just feel like there is a difference between the two. And frankly, I can't tell you exactly what the difference is. You know, like I've never drawn like a line in the sand, so to speak. But but I know it when I see it, man. You know, like an entrepreneur is a man or a woman that's building a business, and it's not somebody that's just trying to get attention.
I love it.
Yeah. Hey, so a little while back, you said that you were a shitty employee, and I'm kind of curious, what was your last job before taking the dive into working for yourself, and what was that like?
Yeah, my very last job. So I was in a really, really tough spot. You know, one of the recovery website, Sober Nation, that I co-founded and that I've essentially run. There was a long time where it wasn't doing very well, and frankly, I'm still very proud of Sober Nation, but in terms of like a business, it's still like kind of really isn't one. It's just a project that means a lot to me, and so after the gazillion failures of that website, trying to get it launched off the ground, and then like going broke again and eating ramen noodles and like being super pissed off, I was able to get a job as a phone rep, because I can talk. I've always been able to kind of get sales jobs and sort of make ends meet through those jobs. But it was selling structured settlements, like, you know, those commercials, JG Wentworth, it's my money and I want it now. You know, you're just calling people all day that have, I think they're called annuities. I can't even remember anymore, where you got injured on the job or maybe got in a car accident. And so you're getting these monthly payments, and then the company would essentially buy the monthly payments and in exchange give you like an upfront lump of cash. So I was on the phones, man, just every single day, calling. And I actually owe a lot to one of the guys there, because he kept catching me working on my blog on timstodds.com. I started it around that time, and he kind of pulled me aside. He was like, hey, man, like, I don't really know if this is for you. Like, you got to kind of go do your own thing. And I was like, yeah, buddy, I know. So I did my own thing again. But it's funny how it works, because I went and I did my own thing again, and lo and behold, like I failed again. So I was able to get a job as just an SEO, just a real kind of low content manager SEO at this company called Tightline Marketing in Florida. I don't think the company is around anymore, but I like those guys. I really appreciated those guys kind of giving me a job, but I would always run into the same problems, you know, where I can't keep my mouth shut. I just don't like to be told what to do, basically, is what my problem is. And eventually the same thing happened there. I just couldn't take it, and they fired me and told me that I needed to start my own company. And so that was the last one where at that point I was able to start Stodzy and learn more about the ins and outs of the actual client services business, and, you know, the difference between some of the other things I've done in the past, like construction. I grew up doing construction, and I had like a little contracting business when I was in high school, and I was really familiar with that, because just the pricing models of like buying materials and stuff is a lot different. So it took me a couple of rounds of trying to figure out how to work with clients for digital services before I actually figured out how to do it. And so that was my last one, Tightline Marketing. I worked there for a couple months, I suppose, and then they gave me the boot. That's always what happened.
Do you think at that point in time they were doing for you what you couldn't do for yourself?
You know what? I do. There was a guy that worked there that started the company. I'm not going to mention his name. He was an older guy, and he was like 60. Well, 65 isn't really that old. I'm thinking about it as I say it now, but he was the oldest one in the office, I should say.
Right.
And he was a really, really successful stockbroker. and somehow or another, I don't know the whole story, but he got mixed up in this bad deal and he went to jail for like 8 years. And he wasn't a bad person. You know, most white collar, most criminals of all kinds really aren't bad people, but he certainly paid the price for him being like really high and mighty. And I just remember looking at him and watching how hard he worked and how hard he was selling stuff every day. And he just had this vision of like this big agency that he wanted to create. And I remember looking at it always being like kind of sad, because I just never ever wanted that to happen to me, where I was like made it and then lost it and then was just being one of those stories where you're just fighting to try to get it back. And so because of that guy, he actually taught me, just through watching him, to sort of take my time. You know, in Florida especially, but all over the country, there's a lot of really not cool ways to make money really fast.
Oh yeah.
And it was just a real eye opener. Like, don't fuck around with that. Do real work, do real business, do it right, because in the long run, this way will pay off. And that's really been the case. I can't tell you how many people that I knew back then in Florida that, I don't know, either went to jail or just did awful stuff or lost all their money. And it feels good to know that those lessons that I learned from this particular gentleman at that company, they helped me give myself permission to kind of take my time.
I dig it. Yeah, I mean, I was working for a big company, you know, and in the the treatment industry, making good money, comfortable salary, you know, big salary. And one day I walked in there and they were just like, yeah, I mean, we just, you don't work here anymore.
You're out of here.
You know? And I had all these ideas, Tim, in my head about what I wanted to do, but no courage to make the leap to do it for myself. And I just believe that I was put in that position for a reason, and I believe that they did for me what I could never do for myself. Kind of like, you know, in life and in most people who listen, they know our stories and you know, our recovery and our past and all that stuff. The higher power takes care of you. You know, he does for you what you can't do for yourself.
I totally agree. There's been more. I don't get too involved with this kind of stuff simply because I don't want my opinion to sway other people. But
of course,
I think anybody, if they're humble enough and are able to look at the big picture, are able to see, hundreds of examples as to where things just worked out for them in a way that they can't explain. And, who knows what it is? You can define it or call it whatever you want. But for me, the more that I've stayed, connected with my higher power or my center, the more often that stuff tends to happen. And the more that I try to fucking act like I know exactly how things should be, the more I kind of end up just screwing things up. So, spirituality and entrepreneurship don't usually mix in conversation, but for me, they've been really, really interconnected because it has a lot to do with control, and when I'm able to kind of lean on something that's bigger than me, and I'm able to kind of give up that control that I want to have so bad because I think I know what's best for everybody. Things just tend to work out, and I'm happier and I feel better, and people want to be around me more often, which all in all leads to me running a better company.
Yeah, definitely. And I can relate to that, what you just said, big time. A lot of times when I think that, I know something or I'm 100% sure and I start getting a little arrogant, I tend to get a little knock and kind of reminder that, I need to, be a little bit more humble. So I relate there for sure. to get into another aspect of what you do, what is for people who don't know, what's your podcast about, and what led you to even want to get into podcasting?
I'm sure you guys can relate to this because my podcast has been about so many different things because I just could not make up my mind. I originally started the podcast for like a technical reason, so to speak. Like, more podcasts are just gaining in popularity, and I'm a writer, as you guys know, and I love writing on my blog, but I just didn't want to miss an opportunity to create some more content and potentially like grow my brand. So it started as a very matter of fact reason. But of course I started off thinking, do I want to talk to other business owners? Do I want to do a marketing podcast? Do I want to do like a recovery podcast? And then I would start just reading my blogs because there's a guy named Seth Godin that I like a lot. He's like a real good marketing genius, and his podcast is him. It's just kind of reading his thoughts. And I started listening to that. Like, you know what? I think that's pretty cool. I don't have to book guests. I don't have to rely on other people. And then that got kind of old for me because because one of the things about the interview style, which I'm sure you guys can totally relate to, is I get just as much out of it in terms of like my development from just listening to other people and learning from their experiences. And so when I was doing the kind of monologue type episodes, I was losing that. So something happened in the new year, these last 2 months, where I just kind of stopped thinking about it so hard. And now I just book anybody that I can find on Twitter that I think is interesting. So on Sunday, so tomorrow at midnight, because this guy's in Australia, actually, my next guest is probably the guest that I'm most excited about. His name is called Pig. He's a StarCraft streamer, and he's a commentator. StarCraft is like an esports game. It's a pretty big online competitive game, especially in South Korea. It's basically like bigger than the NFL to them over here. And he's been one of the best StarCraft players, and he's a commentator, and he's just like a big online personality on Twitch for people that are into that game. And he's going to join me on the show. And, it's not necessarily going to be about building a brand. I mean, maybe we'll talk about that. It's not necessarily going to be about like esports and the business of esports, but I'm sure we're going to talk about that. I'm really at a spot where I'm just trying to talk to people that I find interesting, because every time I do that, I just always come out of these episodes feeling like, wow, that person has a whole lot to offer to the world. And it just makes me feel like I learned something,
Yeah. I mean, our podcast, we kind of branded it as centered around self-development, and self-development is at the primary core of the podcast. But, I started 2 businesses this year. I have a YouTube channel. I'm doing like all these different things. So it's kind of intertwined or intermingled into a bunch of different things. And, we laugh, we have fun, we read things out of the Motivation Manifesto. We just get together once a week and we have a good time, and we learn a lot. We learn a lot about each other. And when we bring guests on like you, we feel that it brings value to the listener. And that's what we, really want to accomplish, is just to give people a little something they can listen to. They could take something out of the podcast, apply it into their life, and move a little bit more forward than they were before they listened to it, which I'm sure you can relate to and identify with. And yeah, I'm just scrolling through my iTunes. Like, I listened, there was like a week or two when I listened to like a bunch of your episodes. And then I remember when you went to the monologue stuff, and they were like 4, 5, 6 minute episodes. But like, I love the episode that you did with Matt Williams from FroPro. I don't know if you know, but I own a juice and smoothie bar in Coconut Creek.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I got connected with him through a friend a few months back, and they're the #1 selling snack bar in my shop. Ooh. And we have all kinds of stuff in there, all kinds of snack. The one bars, the protein bars, the vegan, snacks, all this stuff. Like, people buy his stuff like it's going out of style. Like, a guy came up to the counter with like 2 boxes of them, bought like $70 worth of FroPro in like one shot. And I was like, I felt bad charging them retail, but I was like,
Hey.
what am I going to do? You know?
You got to.
But I love those episodes. And even the monologue stuff I thought was cool. As long as you're having a good time doing it, I feel like that's all that matters.
Yeah, I agree. And funny thing about Matt Williams, I have boxes of Fro Pro in my fridge right now, and he actually sent them to us because my girl's a Pilates instructor, and she works with a lot of clients. And Juliana, that's my fiance, she messaged Matt on Instagram saying like, "Hey, let me hand a couple of these out." And so we sent us 2 boxes, and they're so fucking good that I just like kind of ate them all. And so I had to buy more.
One sitting. Yeah. So I want to know a little bit. I know about your business, but I feel like people need to know a little bit more about the journey and how you got to where you're at. So obviously, the intro stated that you specialize or you work with clients, and basically you want to help their businesses rank in Google and turn that traffic into business. Just tell us a little bit, a few minutes about that process, how it works, how maybe if someone has a business, how they could benefit from it, and why it's good or beneficial for small businesses.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I really love talking about my company. It's not the company itself that I really love to talk about. I just love talking about the work of what we do. I'm so lucky that I'm so lucky that I get to do what I love to do every day. So Stodzy is an online marketing agency, but the word online marketing is like a super broad term. There's a million ways to market something through the internet. What we really specialize in is search engine optimization. So that means getting websites. Anytime somebody searches something on Google, it's always the first 3 results that basically get all of the traffic. And there's a reason why some websites are at the top and why some aren't. And that's what we do. We work with clients to build their websites, build their brand, build their online authority so that Google essentially sees them as worthy of being at the top of the search result. So I love SEO, and I love turning kind of organic search. That's what we call web traffic that comes in through a search engine. I love turning organic traffic into like an email list, because I just feel like that is the best way to grow a brand and grow a business. And that's why we don't do social media. I've talked about this a lot. I write about this a lot. I'm actually really not a fan of social media. I'm not a fan of people trying to use social media to grow businesses. And it's not necessarily that it's not effective. Sometimes it can be effective, but you don't actually own it. When people build brands on Facebook or build brands on Instagram, it's Facebook's website. They can do whatever they want with it. And I've seen countless instances where people have spent a lot of money building a page with like a lot of page likes and building all these followers. And then all of a sudden Facebook changes the rules in their algorithm. And I've seen that happen with Instagram, but I've seen that happen with Google also. So Google isn't like change proof by any means, but what I love to do is turn that kind of traffic into an email list, because you're always going to own your email list. If Google changes their algorithm, if Facebook changes the way they display content, it's not going to hit you as hard, because there's nobody in between you and the people that read your emails. It's just a one-on-one direct connection with your audience. So that's how we choose to do it. Even though I kind of gave you the differences between, like social media and search engine optimization, we also focus on SEO because of the conversion. Like you have to think of the person that is on Google searching for something. If somebody gets to your website through a search query, your website is quite literally answering whatever the problem they have that made them search for something in the first place. So traffic that comes to a website through search is always going to result in like more phone calls or more sales or whatever, because like the only way that they got to your website in the first place is because you're helping them with whatever it is that they're trying to solve. As opposed to with social media, you're kind of pushing stuff at them. You know, you're saying like, hey, check out this ad, look at me, look at me, look at me, where most likely whoever it is that's seeing your ad isn't really in that perfect frame of mind where they're actively looking for like your product or your service. So I love SEO. I love the chess match of, you know, trying to outmaneuver other websites and trying to outthink each other to get one step ahead of your competition. I just love the science behind it. I love the art behind it. It's like the coolest thing in the world. I really love my job, but I thought it was important to kind of explain how they both work, because we specialize in SEO and in email marketing for those specific reasons.
Perfect. And I really want an evaluation done of my business. So how do I start the process?
Well, the first thing you need to do is build a website.
That's already done, Tim. Check.
Yeah, well, yeah, perfect. I'm kind of talking to everybody.
Okay.
So the first thing you want to do is you want to own your content. So even if you have a YouTube channel, that's great, but still like embed those YouTube videos on your website. If you have a podcast, publish your podcasts on your website through the blog, because that way there's like a home base for all of your content. And then so SEO is kind of complicated, but you can break it down into 3 basic principles. One is write content. Really that simple. Google likes words. When Google indexes websites and they index the internet, what they're really doing is they're scanning all the words on a web page, and they're coming to a conclusion on like what that particular web page is about. So the more words you have on a website, the more chances you have of being picked up on a search query. So write content is step number 1. Step number 2 is make your website about something. The more specific your website is, the more Google is going to see you as an authority in like this particular space. You know, a mistake that a lot of people do is they just think, I need more content. I need more content. So they just start writing about a whole bunch of stuff, and they have, you know, maybe other people post guest posts on their site, and the message gets kind of out there. You know, you want to try to keep the content of your site and your message really unified. It's better to have kind of a small website that packs a punch for a specific kind of thing than it is to have like a giant website that tries to solve everything, because Google is not going to know exactly what it is that you're talking about. So we got write content, we got keep it specific, and then number 3, we have get links on other sites. So this part gets kind of technical, but part of Google's algorithm, in order to decide what website is, you know, more authoritative than other, is they look for links on other sites. So if I have a website, I want to get a link on your website, so that if someone's on your site and they click on that link, it's going to bring them back to my website. So that link does 2 things. One, it brings the traffic over, you know, like I was on your site and then I clicked on your link and now I'm on another website. But the second thing, and the more important thing it does, is Google actually sees those links, and they kind of use them as like citations almost. It's almost you're boosting a little bit of authority. You're kind of saying through that link, this website is worthy of being linked to. So the more links a website has, the more Google kind of sees it as all of these different websites are referencing it as being like an authority in a particular space. So if you can write good content, if you can be specific, and if you can get links on other websites, you'll rank in the search engines. It's sometimes it's harder than others depending on like how competitive the field is, But if you can follow those 3 steps and you can do them over a consistent basis, you'll definitely start getting search traffic.
And I have a couple quick questions. So, as far as the links, do you have to pay per link?
No, well, you can. There are companies that just say, pay me, and I'll put a link on your page. That's certainly one way to do it. It's very frowned upon by Google. If you get caught buying links, so you're going to ask, well, how's Google going to know if I paid? Like, let's say I gave you guys like $100 to put a link on your website. Google's never going to find out about that. But what Google can understand is if you're buying massive amounts of links on big websites that do nothing but sell links, because a lot of those sites are out there where they just have these massive websites and they just charge people like, give me $100 and you can post 500 words on our site and you can put a link in it. Eventually the more links that you get, Google can actually tell if the site that you linked to is spammy or if that site is a good website as well. So like over time, Google will find out if you're buying links and they'll penalize you, or they'll just decide that the links that are pointing back to your site are coming from spammy websites and it's probably bullshit. So you'll never actually get the rankings that you're working for.
Okay. So it's almost like Instagram influencers.
Yeah. That's a pretty good analogy, actually. My favorite way to do it is twofold. One is podcasts. Being a guest on shows is a great way to get links. Just we'll put show notes in their podcasts, and in the show notes, a lot of times people link back to the website. So it's like a fair trade, because I came here, I gave my time to you guys. You guys have like a great new episode that you're going to put out there and hopefully get some listeners. And like in exchange, there's a link on your site that goes back to my site. So that's a really good way to get links. And then the real way where like the mustard meets the road or whatever the expression is just constantly reaching out to people, scanning the internet, finding other websites that are kind of in the same field or kind of could be related to what the kind of stuff that you're doing. Reach out to them and just ask them like, hey, do you accept guest posts? Can I write a post for you? And it's sort of the same concept. Like, I'm going to take my time. I'm going to write this great piece of content that you are going to publish on your site. So you're going to get value from it. And in exchange, the only thing that I'm going to ask for like my hard work is that you put a link in that page. So there's no such thing as something for nothing. You know what I mean? Like real link building and real SEO is a very, I don't know what's the word. Like it's very relational. Like you have to really meet people and kind of work with people and just sort of find ways to help each other.
Right. And is that expensive for SEO?
Say that again?
Is it expensive generally for SEO? Like I have a clothing brand and I've never actually, attempted to do Google
Tim
AdWords.
has a clothing brand too.
Oh, is that right?
You still involved with the clothing brand?
Life. Yeah. A clothing brand is a great way for SEO. So New Life Clothing basically gets all of its sales through one keyword. Well, 2 of them really. It's just sober clothing brand and then recovery clothing. And that's it. So I just focused on those 2 keywords and I bought some advertising on Google for it a little bit and that didn't really work that well. And so then I took the other way and I reached out to some people. I think there's a couple of brands that interviewed me, because that's like a cool thing about clothing is it's a brand. So there's like usually a personality behind the brand, so just go get interviewed. Just reach out to people, ask them if they interview people, ask other websites if they ever do that kind of thing. And most of the time you'll get told no, but sometimes you'll get told yes. And then after doing it for a while, you'll start ranking.
So you have a business, an online business, a clothing brand, a podcast, a blog. What do you not do, my man? Holy smokes.
You know, it's so funny because that seems to be something that pops up a lot in podcasts when I do these kind of podcasts. Because, yeah, I have a lot going on. You know, I'm involved in a website called Keep Me Prime, which is all about like longevity of your health and like optimizing your health. The Cheese, my esports newsletter. And I know it seems like a lot. And yeah, I do have like a lot of energy and that kind of thing. But the reality is that I just have built a routine. Like I'm actually not a workaholic. I wake up at 5 a.m. and from 5 to 8, I get so much shit done. You know, I wake up. The first thing I do is I make my bed. I go downstairs and I drink a big ass glass of water and I let my dog out. And, you know, the coffee's usually done at 5:20. And then I'm at my computer. And then I just focus. And I just focus. And I just use the most of my time. And I focus. And then, no shit, guys. I mean, I work out. I get my exercise in at least 5 times a week. And sometimes I'll jump back on the computer from like 7 to 9 or something. But I'm telling you, I sit down and I have dinner with my fiance every night. And we take our dog for a walk and we go out on the weekends. It's not all about like being busy. It's really about just making the most of the time that you have and just being productive.
Yeah. It's about that 4-hour work week, you know? Or work day,
yeah, great
whatever
book,
it was.
by the way.
All right, so we're going to get ready to wind it down here now. I just want so much value in there for everyone, you know, who might be interested in, you know, using you for, you know, business or really, you know, anything in general. But what would you leave someone with who may be thinking about starting the entrepreneurial journey or thinking about making that jump to, you know, work for themselves, or because we all know it can be life-changing, it can be scary, it can be challenging. Leave everyone with some thoughts on that and what they can do to attack it.
You know, I have 2 thoughts on that. One of them is going to be sort of, I don't know, higher level thought-ish or like motivational. And then another one will be like much more tactical, like a specific thing you can do. If somebody's looking to start their own business, you don't have to fucking quit your job. You don't have to go like, I'm all in and play the part of an entrepreneur. There's plenty of hours in the day. If you have a job, if you have a family, if you got bills, if you have responsibilities, you know, like, come on, don't be an idiot. Do what needs to be done to get where you have to go. So does that mean you'll have to sacrifice a little sleep? Probably. But, you know, I don't like leaving people with, you know what, if you want it, you just got to go get it and you can do anything. Like, yeah, that stuff is true, but experience is the best teacher, especially when it comes to business. So if you have no experience and you're just going to, you know, fucking cannonball into the deep end, there's a really, really, really good chance you'll fail. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. What I'm trying to say is like, put yourself in a position where those failures don't take you out, you know? So keep a job, keep some kind of an income, be patient, like work your way up. It's okay to take 5 years to get to $1 million, because once you get to that spot where you know what you're doing, getting to $2 million is going to be way, way easier. So I like to leave people with that advice. And then like a technical thing that people can do right now, man, I tell you, there's a huge, huge opportunity with email newsletters. People are spending less and less time on social media. Your email app is still the most clicked app on the iPhone. Email is really good advertising. It's actually very valuable because, excuse me, I had to clear my throat. Because if somebody's willing to give you their email address, it's because they actually want to hear from you. You know, so advertisers are always going to be looking to spend money on people that have emails. So pick something. The more specific you can get. I'm starting an esports newsletter. It's a daily newsletter. It goes out 5 times a week. It's just a real simple, curated newsletter about like the top 3 to 5 stories of the week. And that's it. Maybe you're into golf, or maybe you're into, I don't know, fucking building furniture, or maybe you're into nature or plants or whatever. If you are looking for a place to go and you feel overwhelmed by like the enormity of starting a business, just open a MailChimp account, start a newsletter, and send it out every week. And don't miss a week no matter what, and just tell everybody you can about it. And just keep doing it and keep doing it. And then eventually you'll get 1,000 subscribers, and then 10,000. And then you can approach somebody in the business and say, hey, look, give me $1,000 to be featured on my newsletter. You can sponsor my newsletter. And everybody wins. If you do that for a year, you'll have a decent business. And then all the lessons you learn from it, you can start something else. There's just huge opportunities in the newsletter space. And I'm like really, really hot on it right now. So anybody that wants to jump in, just do that. It's simple, it's straightforward, and it's definitely profitable.
I leave so many opportunities on the table with that, because, we have in the juice bar, we have, anywhere between 50 and 150 transactions a day. And I'm not putting in the extra effort to collect the emails. We pay for a MailChimp account. It's all linked to the POS system. And I'm just leaving meat on the table, and I know it. So, and that's good, because it sparked a thought in my head that I need to be more vigilant and creative with collecting emails. And even, I have like 40 or 50 on the list right now, and we're not doing anything with it. It's just wasted space, Those are really good tips, man. I appreciate you taking the time to speak to us tonight. I'm personally going to be reaching out to you on the side for some things that I need help for with my business. So I'm glad that we got to conversate about that, because it kind of broke the ice, and I'm going to reach out to you and your team, and hopefully we can work together. Anybody else have any questions for Tim, or anything else they want to add?
No, man, but thank you again for coming out. I actually will probably be reaching out as well. Like I said, I have a clothing brand, and I've looked into Google AdWords, but haven't really done too much research besides just kind of like looking into it. So yeah, I definitely
I think people don't want to throw money against the wall without knowing what they're doing,
right.
So that's where someone like Tim comes in. It's a perfect fit. So that's awesome, man. All right, so you're going to be hearing from us. Everyone who's listening out there, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Subscribe to the podcast, leave a rating, leave a like. You can check us out on Instagram, The Everyday Hustle Show, website everydayhustleshow.com. We appreciate you. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.